Hey guys, it's Janai. Welcome back to my channel. But before we get started, let's get into my hair real quick. Okay. Yup. By the time you're watching this, I dropped a 7 styles for 7-inch long locks video. This one technically wasn't one of the styles. This was it was some buns, but I took them out. And one day somebody told me that my hair, like my puffs, look like fireworks, and I have never gotten over that compliment. Anyway, today's video, I'm gonna be talking about a couple things that you should consider before starting your locks. Before y'all ask, because I feel like somebody's gonna ask, I have 201 locks. My locks are considered micro locks. I've had them for a little over 2 years. And yeah, so yeah, let's just jump right into it. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, be sure to do that right now. And yeah, get into my phone case too. It's from Smart Art. Anyway, I have a list I'm looking at, so yeah, let's just get right into it. So first things first, you want to consider if you're going to start with a loctician or not. Some people go to a loctician, some people start with a loctician and then maintain their hair themselves, and then some people just start and maintain their own hair. Whatever works for you, works for you. There's just a couple things to take into consideration. So for example, I have always gone to a loctician for my whole lock journey up until recently when I just did this retwist. One thing is that this took me a really long time because I have a lot, but also because I'm kind of slow at retwisting, but I'm gonna get faster. And yeah, if you're gonna be self-maintaining, you definitely want to take into consideration how many locks you have, because if you have less, obviously it's gonna take you less to do everything, styles, retwist, everything. I'm gonna talk about, I guess, some of the pros and cons of starting with a loctician. Oh, also, like I said, some people start with a loctician and self-maintain. So I know a couple of my friends went to a loctician for their starter locks and then did it themselves. And then they would, well, one of my friends, she would just go to her loctician here or there, like if she wants a particular style or when she dyed them and stuff like that. Me, like I said, have gone to a loctician my whole journey. I started with one, and then every single retwist I've ever gotten was from a loctician, and I just did my first retwist, which I also recently uploaded a video about, so definitely go check that out too. So some of the pros of having a loctician is, one, you can usually go to them for a consultation that's usually free, where you can talk to them about what kind of locks you want. They can see your hair and the state that it's in, and also like the thickness of it, because if you have thin hair, locks aren't just gonna make your hair full. So basically they're just gonna be able to help you figure out what's best for your hair. If you want a certain kind of parts, they can do that for you. They'll just figure out what works best for you and tell you, you know, when's the best time to start, I guess, or just whatever. If you have any questions, you can go ask them at the consultation. You can show them a picture, like this is how thick I'm gonna want them to be. They'll get the idea. Yeah, I went for a consultation like 2 or 3 weeks before I started my locks, and she saw my hair. She knew my hair was really short, like a buzz cut, but she still said she could do it. And yeah. 2, locticians are professionals, so you'll never have to worry about, well, as long as you go to somebody credible, make sure you do your research and look at their work and stuff like that. But a lot of people who self-maintain go through this thing where they feel like, oh, is my hair doing the right thing? Did I do anything wrong? My friend, when she first started hers, before she went to a loctician to have them like look at her hair, she had twisted some in one direction and others in other directions, and her parts were all messed up and all kinds of stuff. So when you go to a professional, you know that they're gonna get the job done right. I never had any worries throughout my lock journey, like, oh, is this right, or did I do anything wrong? Because I knew I went to a loctician the whole time and everything should be good. So you have that security in knowing that everything's good. Like I said, if you want some color, that's the best way to go about coloring your locks. Definitely go to a professional. If you consistently go to the same loctician, they will always twist your hair the same way. It'll just keep that consistency in your hair. And when I say the same way, I mean like everybody kind of has a different style, but also like they will always twist it in the same direction. And for the most part, everybody's hair gets retwisted clockwise, but just be consistent. You know how guys feel about being consistent with a barber, because going to a new one might mess them up. Not that another loctician should really mess you up, but consistency is key. It's quicker. Locticians usually could get your in and out way faster than you can self-maintain, but usually, like I said, if you're used to self-maintaining, then, you know, yeah. But like I said, me retwisting my hair for the first time, it took me 7.5 hours. It takes my loctician an hour and a half. Like, might be worth the bread. Repairs, if you ever have any locks that are breaking, falling off, or just thinning or anything, they can do repairs with the crochet needle, stuff like that. They're trained to do stuff like that. They can do Q styles for you, like I said, and also teach you how to do styles and teach me how to do my hair in general. So my loctician, as she is retwisting my hair, she's telling me what she's doing. Always twist to the right. I wash with this shampoo and use this deep conditioner and da-da-da-da. She's teaching me all about my hair so that by the time that I went to retwist my own hair, I knew what to do. So you're getting that professional education from somebody who knows what they're doing for real, instead of just YouTube University. Not that people on YouTube don't be knowing what they're talking about, but you know, go to professional. If you want any certain kind of parts, like I said, triangle parts, diamond parts, stuff like that, that kind of stuff is harder to maintain yourself. So it's just easier when somebody's doing your hair than you trying to look in the mirror or something, part your hair in the back, stuff like that. Yeah, if you want a certain kind of parting grid, they good for that. Convenient, your arm's not getting tired. Somebody else washing your hair for you is always love. And you don't even gotta do anything, you just gotta show up to the appointment. And I wrote that the only con really of going to a loctician is the fact that you gotta make the appointment, go and pay. Like, you know, you gotta leave the comfort of your own house and you gotta pay. Sometimes if you go to a salon, the salon might be all crowded. But other than that, I can't really think of a con for going to a loctician. Like I said, make sure you do your research because every loctician ain't all that or doing what they supposed to do. And I've heard horror stories of locticians messing up people's locks and stuff like that, but do your research and you'll be good. All right, second thing. Oh wait, sorry. I wrote that I started one because my hair was so short. If you guys know, I started my locks with a buzz cut. There was no way I was doing that myself. Also, when I started my locks, I knew nothing about locks. I knew nothing. I honestly used to think, like a little bit before I started my locks, like when my other friend started her locks, I used to not even know that locking your hair was really a process. Like I thought you just put locks. Like that's so embarrassing that I even thought that, but whatever. Yeah, so my hair was so short, I knew nothing about locks. I didn't know how to care for them, start them, retwist them, nothing. I knew that I could show her a picture of what I wanted them to look like when they were long and she would know what to do. And like I said, if I want color, I could always go to her. And I feel like you develop a personal relationship with your loctician. I already knew the girl who started my locks, and yeah, it's just cool, it's just vibes. All right, number two, second thing that you should consider before starting your locks is the thickness / number of locks you want to have. So obviously there's an inverse relationship between how many locks you have and how thick they are. So the thicker they are, the less that you have, and vice versa. Obviously my locks are really small, so I have a lot. Like I said, these are micro locks and I have 201. But if you have like thicker locks, you may have like 60, 70, 80, 90. You know, if you're gonna be maintaining them yourself, maybe you wanna think, do I wanna retwist 200 locks? Or do I just want to do 60? Stuff like that. But remember, they're gonna be thick. So if you want small locks, you're gonna have to have more, like maybe like 100. If you want ideas like, oh, what does about 90 locks look like? A lot of lock accounts on Instagram have their, like people who post just tracking their hair journey, like, you know, pictures of their hair all the time and stuff like that. They usually have their lock count in their bio. They'll say 92 locks, 88 locks, stuff like that. And you could look through different people's pages and see about the size that that number is. Obviously, that's gonna vary from head to head, but you'll get a general idea. Yeah, that's pretty much it with that. The thicker they are, the less you'll have. The thinner they are, well, not thin, but smaller they are, the more you'll have. 3, you want to consider what kind of parts you want. So, you know, there's grid parting, like just regular squares. I might include some pictures, so I'm gonna sit like right here. There's brick parting, there's like triangle parting, diamond parting, like eclipse or like semicircle, whatever you want to call it, parting. And then there's just like no parts, which is kind of what I have. If you see in the back, I don't really have no particular parting grid. All I really asked my loctician for was a middle part. But other than that, I didn't really care too much about the shape of the parts, but also my hair was so short that I didn't really have a choice. But anyway, there's freeform, where there's like no parts really like at all. And then there's a sister lock grid, where there's like, you know, sister locks are like 400, 500, 600 locks, and they're like little micros, and they're like boxes. Yeah, I feel like out of all those, the brick ones are like the easiest to maintain if you're self-maintaining your hair. Triangle and diamond parts, the way they fall over each other, kind of like auditorium seating, where you're not like right behind the person you're sitting in front of, you're like in between the two people in front of you, like this. Your locks will fall like this and fill in all the gaps, and it won't look so party. Whereas I've heard that grid, or seen that brick parting, they'll just like fall over each other, and then you'll see all the parts in the middle. Do some research and you'll understand more what I'm talking about. But there's, you know, different kinds of parting. Just something to consider, because once you decide your parting grid and start your locks, you cannot change that parting grid unless you comb them out and start over. 4, you want to consider what method you're going to use to start your locks. So you could start with twists, like 2-strand twists, braids, coils, sister locks, freeform, instant locks, lock extensions. There may be more ways, but I feel like those are the main ways. 2-strand twists, I feel like those are one of the most common ways to start your locks. Definitely very easy if you're gonna be doing your hair yourself. I've heard that they don't always stay, especially depending on your hair texture. You may deal with a lot of unraveling at first, but like I said, it's one of the most common ways that people start their locks, and people have success with it all the time also. So yeah, it may take about a year for the twist pattern in your hair to really go away and for it to really look like a lock, but it'll lock. Braids, like plaits, same thing. You can start that yourself. I've heard that like locks started with braids are flatter instead of more cylindrical. That's your preference. Coils, that's another one of the most common ways to start. That's how I started, but also my hair was so short, that's the only way I could start. I know that if you have a looser hair texture, it may take longer for your hair to lock, because it's just so hollow, and it takes so long for like the hollowness of the coil to like fill up. Also, you're really gonna deal with a lot of shrinkage. You're gonna deal with shrinkage with all of them, but definitely with those coils. Yeah, my friend she had 3 different sets of locks. Her first 2, she started with 2-strand twists, and she used to complain to me about unraveling a lot. So when she got to her 3rd set and those were started with coils, she said they stayed, not one unraveled. Like I said though, it really depends on your hair texture. Sister locks. So if you want sister locks, you have to go to like a sister lock trained professional. There's like a certain way that they do sister locks that's different than just like 2-strand twists or coils. They actually like interlock it or something. That's like a whole 3-day process also. Take that into consideration. And those are some long retwists. Well, reties is what they're called, because you're not twisting that hair, but yeah. You can freeform your hair, which is when you kind of just like let your hair do its own thing. You don't really like part it and particularly retwist it. And you can also start those. Instant locks, that's basically when they use a crochet needle to kind of make your locks skip the developing phases and kind of just already look like locks. That's one way to do it if you're impatient, or if you have a hair texture that's either gonna take forever or not really gonna lock. I know a lot of people with straight hair do that, or really loose curls, or like I said, just people who are impatient. And last but not least, lock extensions. That's basically when you attach hair, like pre-made locks made of human hair, to your hair and basically have permanent faux locks. There are people who are trained to do that. I have seen somebody do it themselves, but most people I know go to somebody for that. It's kind of expensive, but it's worth it to some people. 5th thing to consider before starting your locks is if you want to dye them. So I personally think it's best to either dye your locks before you lock your hair, or once it's like mature, or at least done budding, because from what I heard and just stuff I see on Instagram, I personally feel like dyeing your hair, well, maybe not so much dyeing, but particularly bleaching your hair while it's budding and still becoming a lock kind of hinders the locking process. And don't get me wrong, when you bleach your hair, it's gonna cause some kind of damage and alteration to your hair, period. But I just particularly feel like doing it during the budding phase is not the best time to do it. I know a lot of people do, and I'm not really talking so much about dyeing your hair during the budding phase, particularly bleaching. I think that you should either do it before you lock your hair or once it's mature. Even my loctician has told me that, like, bleaching your hair during the budding phase is kind of just gonna make it like rewind, but to each is their own. Also, I started with blonde tips, and my loctician told me that she thinks that the blonde tips were helping my hair lock faster because, you know, bleached hair is like damaged, so it's like drier and more tangled. So that tangling of it helped it stay locked and not unravel. Also, I feel like if you bleach, dye it, whatever, during the budding phase, since when your hair is budding, it's kind of like merging all within itself, I feel like the dye job can come out uneven. I've seen it happen a lot. I feel like if you just do it when your hair is loose still, or once they're mature, the dye job looks more even, but when they're still budding, I don't know. I personally feel like it just, I don't know. Just do your research, and if you can, go to a professional, because even the professional might tell you to wait till your locks are a little more mature. Sixth thing to consider before starting your locks is when you're gonna do it. So there's no particular time of year where it's like best to start your locks. I started mine in September, if y'all care. It's not particularly true that you shouldn't get starter locks wet. You can wet them. A lot of people like spray them with water. Submerging them in water, like going swimming, that's kind of another story. So if you swim a lot and stuff and be in the water, I wouldn't really recommend getting starter locks like in the summer if you're gonna be all in the water, especially because if you're in that water, you're definitely gonna need to wash your hair, wash the chlorine out, wash the salt out. And you can wash starter locks, but you don't wanna be washing them too much and making your hair unravel, especially because if you have chlorine and salt in your hair, you really gonna want to get in it, and you really might mess up those starter locks. So I personally think you should just wait until not the summertime, like maybe right after summer or maybe in like winter to start your locks. If you be in the water or at the beach or any activity where you're gonna want to wash your hair frequently, I wouldn't recommend. A special date. Some people like to start their locks on dates that are special to them. Like I know last year, a lot of people started their locks on 2/2/2/2/2, just because that's like a cool day. So you can take that into consideration. Like it's January right now. Let's say this was last year, because it's 2023 now. Crazy. And you're thinking like, I want to start my locks this year. Oh, like 2/2/2/2/2 is coming up. Like maybe I'll start them on that day. Like, you know, like if you even care about like a lock anniversary and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm corny. I'd be like, oh, my locks started September 24th. My locks are Libras, and I like to get a retwist on my lockversary day and just stuff like that, if you care about stuff like that. But just know, you know, that's going to be the date that you started them forever. But some people don't even remember their start day and even care about stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I wrote, always remember to take pictures so you can look back on how far you've come. You may not notice much of a difference during the budding phase, but in hindsight, you'll realize how much they've actually changed. So yeah, those are just personally my things that I would take into consideration before starting locks. There's a ton of other things that you can consider that can't think of any off the top of my head right now, because if I could, I would have added them to this list. You can also take into consideration how long your hair is. I know some people like to wait until their hair is longer so their starter locks can be longer, but that shrinkage is inevitable, so you might as well just start sooner. Like people always say, the only thing I regret about my locks is that I didn't start them sooner. I hope that these tips helped you guys. If you guys have any other things that you would consider, you guys can add them to the comments below. Oh, one more thing, because I literally opened TikTok and the first video that was there was like somebody talking about different ways to start your locks. They were saying how braids take a long time to start a lock. So I was saying that if you have twists, it could take like a year for your twist pattern to go away. Well, apparently it's long longer for braids, but braids are kind of like the most secure, like braids are not about to unravel. And they were also talking about interlocking, which I forgot to mention. I mean, sister locks are interlocked, but you can also interlock without having sister locks. That's one way to start. That's like a way to retwist your hair so that it lasts longer, but you can't comb out your locks if you interlock. So if you ever get tired of them, you have to cut them. And the last thing, he was talking about the shrinkage of 2-strand twists. So coils and 2-strand twists got the crazy shrinkage. Just be ready. Be sure to follow me on all my social media at the Loc Don, and on Pinterest at Janai Kirsten. If you have any questions, also comment below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I feel like I just know this like outro off the top of my heart, y'all. I've been doing YouTube for like 7 years. I'll see you guys in another video. Be sure to check out my styles video, my retwist video, all the videos I mentioned, all the videos in my secret lock journey playlist, all the videos on my channel, just all my videos. All right, peace.